Hello, everybody. It's 7 p.m. Central Time on the 22nd of February, 2023. And I've got some breaking news for you. Oh, it's Wednesday here in the United States, Thursday internationally already, and we have a new large earthquake that has struck over in the Mideast, right at the Afghanistan border. And it rang in originally at a 7, was downgraded immediately, and then brought back up to 6.8. That's where we are now when I begin this report. So let's get a display capture turned on so you can see what I see, and we're going to go look at the spot in question. Now this is again right at the Afghanistan border. We'll get the coordinates from the USGS or the EMSC. It's listed as Tajikistan, okay? So the country of Tajikistan, but go put it in and see how close we are. Anytime we get above 6.0 level activity over here, it's a big deal, even if it's in a mountainous area, because of the towns, that the way they're built. They're up on mountaintops, they're stone stacked structures. Even if it's a small town, we won't hear about it for a long time. Okay, so here we are, and let me turn on our borders and labels. There we go. All right, so to the south, we have Afghanistan. It comes over in a little peninsula right here. To the further south, we have India, and to the east, we have China over at the Taklamakan Desert. There is the country of Tajikistan, and let's try and find our nearest towns. Okay, just so we can see what the structures at least look like from above. Okay, we're talking really rural here, guys. Look at that. We're talking very, very rural in a lot of the country. I guess that is somewhat good news. I don't know if we'll get much news out of this area just because of it being so rural. Now, it's called the Tajik National Park where the area happened, which I guess is further good news that it's not directly next to a residential area. It's at a national park. I'm going to open up a USGS plate boundary map. We're going to go take a look and see where this just struck. There it is. There's the red-colored earthquake. It's a new near 7.0 quake. Again, it rang in at a 7. The siren sang, and now it's downgraded. But there we go. It is right north of our plate boundary. The plate boundary is the red line. Now, this is a new push that's coming in. I don't think this is directly related to the 7.0 level activity from 2 weeks ago over in Turkey. This is a separate push that's taking place now as we are on day 6 of the arrival of that solar storm from the X2 flare that took place. Day 6 into day 7, what do we see? A new large earthquake along the plate boundary right next to where we had a series of deep earthquakes. Let me take you back just a little bit. You might see them raised slightly high off the globe here, and you'll see them raised high off the globe going across the West Pacific. Now, we have a warning going in Indonesia and another one going in Philippines that has not been fulfilled yet for a similar sized quake to this, 6.8, 6.9, 7.0 range, and has not happened over here in the West Pacific yet. But we are on the plate boundary coming out of the West Pacific. Again, I'm looking right here, and we get struck on the northwest side of the Indo-Australian plate. This is going to be flowing over into Turkey, and I would expect Turkey to take the next magnitude, maybe 2 magnitude step up. And if we go up 1 magnitude, we go up into the 7 range. And so I'm going to keep it within the magnitude. I won't say 2 full magnitudes we're going to go up, but with a wave this size incoming, this is a big deal for the people over in Turkey. This is a big deal for the people in Iran. Think of this like a storm putting a lot of rain on a river. And in this case, it's going to be flowing downstream, following which way the arrows point. And if we get a big storm here, and this is the river, and they just got hit with a flood over here previously from the previous storm, it's going to be coming in this way again. Should flare things back up big time back in Turkey. So we should see a noticeable increase in Turkey in the next few days. And it's not caused directly by this earthquake. This earthquake in Tajikistan itself is being caused by a greater wave that's coming out of the West Pacific overall. And it's coming up from down below the West Pacific as a result of the deep earthquake activity. Deep earthquake activity as a result of our solar activity. So we have a spread of earthquakes going somewhat equidistantly spaced across the plate boundary now, leading over to this spot. It's like a giant arrow. Do you see this? Again, coming off of Fiji, going over, across, up, and into the big earthquake. And then coming across from the north, same thing. Focusing in on this point. This point that just broke is being broke because of a new wave coming across from all of our deep earthquake activity. And it's heading over towards Turkey. It should take just a few days to get there. So we're talking about maybe a few days from now at the most, we should start to see a major increase back in Turkey, both in the number of earthquakes and in the magnitude. I think we would top out 1 magnitude larger than where we are now, and that's me putting a cap on it, so up to 7.3. Now the spot we watch, or spots that we watch, are based upon our current earthquake activity, and we look between our current sets of earthquakes. So let's take a look and just see where all of our earthquakes are taking place. We can find the middle point between all of this hot mess, and that will tell us the spot to watch. So we have some earthquake activity down here off Cyprus, some more down off Lebanon, just a few, 4s, and then back up across, all 4s. In the middle of all the 4s is our 6. So if I were to look into this middle of this whole mess, that's where our big 7 struck. But let's look back over to the east, slightly over here along the Syria border. And we're going to watch right here along the Syria border, about 90 to 100 miles east of where the 7s struck 2 weeks ago. An entirely different location. This brings us over to the plate boundary over by Iran. Here's Syria. Here's Turkey. Here's Iran. Here's the plate boundary. Let's trace it back now. Plate boundary goes back down, the number 7 shaped bend at the Carlsberg Ridge, and back up to where our quake is. And the way the wave flows is over to the west, ultimately. So, break here, caused by a flowing wave with a big arrow shape worth of earthquakes. The wave is coming from over in the Pacific, the very low frequency wave, and it's following these red lines like a river or a wave guide. When it gets in here to Turkey, it's broken. It already broke. It's still moving. It's going to flare back up. Don't mistake this for aftershock activity. I'm doing that in bunny quotes because this will not be aftershock activity. This is a new incoming wave, pretty significant in size, spanning all the way from Russia all the way back down to Indonesia. How many miles is that? Here, there's 500-mile key, so 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, 3,000. I mean, we're talking like 5,000 miles of an area with an inundating wave going across it right now. And it's coming up from down below the whole West Pacific, and that gets us back to our deep earthquake activity. So, if you're just now tuning in, a new near 7, or it originally rang in at a 7, struck on the plate boundary here. This is separate from the activity that happened 2 weeks ago over at Turkey. So clearly, we're still moving across the plate boundary, coming out from the Indo-Australian plate. India, Australia. Now, I've got a bunch of reports from people about 4 days ago saying that there was a 6.9 to 7.0 earthquake reported in the Indian Ocean somewhere. I could not find where those reports came from, but there was enough people saying it that it caught my eye. But I had to reply to each of them. I don't have any proof of anything like that. What are you talking about? No response. So I don't know if that came from a YouTube video maker or whatever, but here we are, and now we have a 7 on the north side of this, which is the Indo-Australian plate. I don't know if they said it was in the Bay of Bengal, so it would have been over here. They said a 7 struck over here, 6.9. Again, we got to find who reported that, guys. We have to go look into that, but can they hide a 7 globally? I would have thought that would be a mistake, right? But we never know. The 7 that was reported in the Bay of Bengal was reported around the same time as the earthquake over here in Turkey. And it could be that the earthquake that was reported on the other side of the plate boundary entirely, 2 plates away, was related to the earthquake in Turkey, and it was a false reading. It could be that. Anyway, now we have a new 7 up here in Tajikistan, just north of Afghanistan, just north of the plate boundary. And that inundating energy is going to be going over to the west. This earthquake in Tajikistan is a sign of the incoming wave, and it's big, and it's going to be going over to a spot that just broke and still has surface fissure fracturing happening. And we can go look at the last 48 hours worth of earthquakes over in Turkey just to prove that it's still fracturing, because look at the last 48 hours worth of earthquakes and look at the span. It's not like it's aftershocks. You can't call this aftershocks, right? Like, aftershocks happen in the spot or right next to the spot where the earthquake happened. So we had 2 7s. There should be 2 spots where there are aftershocks. Instead, you have, what is that, 400 miles? 400 miles in motion, all in 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, with a 6 in the middle of it all. Or, I mean, you can see it. The 6 isn't directly in the middle, but you can see that it's more than just what we would call aftershocks. It's the plate shifting. And this means there's a new plate boundary forming here with that big chasm and the surface fissure fracturing. It's not just the Anatolian fault anymore. Now it's the new red line that they're going to have to put on the map here, connecting between Africa's plate edge and, what is this, Russia? That's the name of the plate. Anyway, between the two, they're going to have to connect a red line here, because now there's a surface fissure fracture, and it's not just a fault. It's an actual plate boundary. It's in motion. And how do I know it's in motion? Look. Right? Not aftershocks. It's a whole plate. We would see this on, like, the San Andreas. The creeping section of the San Andreas is this long. And you would see something like this happen on the San Andreas, which means plate boundary. So, anyway, a big earthquake is struck over here, and now a new aftershock. This is what we would consider to be an aftershock, a 5.2 in the exact same spot that the 6.8 struck, or right next to it within a few miles. So, 6.8, 7.0 range quake on the plate boundary likely caused at least a lot of landslide activity. The only good news I have, not a lot of people around the epicenter. Just by the looks of it, mountainous, a lot of mountain peaks. I've got my borders, labels, and places turned on. So, where's our nearest town? I mean, do you guys even see any? I mean, it's not like Tajikistan is really known for its big cities. Is it? Do you guys even see where there are any big cities in Tajikistan? Maybe over to the west? Looks like it. Looks like over to the west is where we have our cities. And over to the east, it's just mountains. So what do the cities look like over here? Wow. Wow, we actually have Google Street level views in Tajikistan. Well, it's not how I imagined it. Not how I imagined it at all. My goodness gracious. You kidding me? Are those 3 sets of twins? Okay. Wow. Pretty. I wasn't imagining it to be like that. Well, they might fare a little bit better if their construction's more like that. However, the distance here on these towns is far enough away, I would think that even if it's a 7, they would just get some swaying, shaking chandeliers, maybe a few things falling off shelves over this far away. That's good news. So just as a nearest city measurement, I mean, we're talking 150 miles. Yeah, that's good news. That is. So if we don't have any large cities nearby, that's good news. It looks like we do have a few towns named, but the towns are these little mountain towns. Look, there looks like some huts are there or something. I mean, the problem with that is that we won't find out about anybody getting injured or get any footage or anything of this. It's just a huge earthquake out in the middle of Tajikistan on the plate boundary. And most people would dismiss it. But who's downstream? Will you dismiss it now? Again, in the past, people dismissed large earthquakes out in the middle of nowhere because they said it didn't matter. They didn't think it affected them at all. But now that you know that this is more like a flowing river, and this struck upstream from Europe, and the flow goes over to Iran, Turkey, Greece, Italy, South Europe, and if the push is big enough, which it certainly is, go around the outside edge of Europe again. And I say again because it already happened once. Already went around the outside edge of Romania, broke with a 6, and then a new 5 out at Iceland. Now a new 4 has struck back at Romania, but we're outside of my warned area. I warned right here on eastern Romania at the bend right here, and instead the earthquake struck here at the bend. I'm trying to get it within 200 miles. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be too hard on myself, but anyway, new earthquake struck Romania, but it struck on the left side of the bend instead of the right side of the bend. Anything else going on that's worth mentioning? Well, aside from a 7 in the Mideast. Deep earthquake activity, that's solar activity, and over in the United States, you know what? I saw that there was some kind of thing put out in California about the 3.0 level activity. You got 3 sets of 3s that broke out today across, going from the plate boundary up at the Juan de Fuca, down to the volcano right north of San Francisco. That's Clear Lake Volcano. Geysers, California is the name of the place. And then over to do a 3.5 right at Monte Cristo Hills Volcanic Buttes, right at the back side of our arrow. So 3 new sets of 3s. I know it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but to get a spread of earthquakes in a day going across the whole state, heading over this way means we've got a new push heading across over this way. And the spacing on this, again, we're somewhat equidistantly spaced on the 3s going across. But I don't want to get sidetracked talking about 3s. We need to look over to the east and get ready in Oklahoma, because a stepping stone path of 3s heading over to the east means Oklahoma's about to take a step back up. And when I say that, I mean we're going to go back up to 4s or 5s. Look, we got a big push going around the planet right now. The deep earthquakes are just a sign of it. The solar activity we got to keep an eye on, even if it's a glancing blow. And getting over to Turkey, I'm just going to tell you now, over the next several days, you should see a massive increase in the number of earthquakes. And you should see a definite increase in the amplitude, the power, the volume, the magnitude of this should also increase across the board. So it's like we're turning up the volume knob. As the new wave comes in, it's a big wave. And we know it's a big wave because it's coming out of the West Pacific. It's going over to the edge of the next plate over. Let me just put it simply, guys. We got a bunch of force coming up on the underside of this whole thing here, the Indo-Australian plate, and look where it's coming up. It's coming up on the far pinnacle tip, but it's going to flow over to the west, the wave, and go out and try and escape out across the rest of the planet. This is just a symptom of the greater problem. The greater problem is the standing wave that's forming down below the plate, the vibration that's coming up, and when it comes up, boom, we get our shallower, larger earthquakes. And in this case, the shallower, larger earthquakes are popping up on the edge of the whole plate, not just next to the or the deep earthquakes. The deep earthquakes, we normally look between our deep earthquakes, which is, we still do. I'm just saying that this is going up on the edge of the plate, and it's heading right out over towards Europe now. In the next few days, I expect to be reporting back in Turkey, and I would expect my viewers to get the word out to the people in Turkey. You got to let them know, guys. There's a big disturbance heading their way. They already got hit once. It's a block and break point that's already broken, and the wave is coming in here. It's going to get reflected back into Iran, and then back into Turkey, and back into Iran, and back into Turkey. And it'll keep doing that until it breaks free and goes across Europe. And you'll know it when it happens. So we should get a big earthquake in Turkey again. We should then see also a new earthquake in western Iran, or Tehran, between the two arrows. Then we should see another earthquake here in Turkey, but a little less than the 7. So it should bounce back and forth in here as it's broken. Eventually it will release, and we'll see a new spread go across Europe, just like it did last time. So Croatia, Romania, Bulgaria, Albania, Italy, Adriatic Sea. You guys just should all get ready now that there's a new push coming in, and it's going to be about the same size as what just came out of Turkey last time. So what came out of Turkey last time? Upper 5s, low 6s struck across Europe after Turkey. So Turkey broke 7s, then 5.7, 5.8, 5.9, 6.0, 6.1. That range struck across Italy, Adriatic, Romania, South Europe. So I think that's getting ready to happen again, almost right down to the point. Just a little less. Okay, just a little less. But, I mean, it's not much less. And we just got to tell them now. Again, incoming 7 is most likely. If a 6.8's on its way, and it's going to get locked up in here with everything else coming, it's going to be bigger. It's going to be bigger than the 6.8 coming over to the west. This is a sign of the wave coming across. It's not. This does not dictate what impacts into here. We have to add everything here together. So the 6.8, the 5.0, the 4.8, the 4.7, and going back a day, we have to add in the 5.3, 4.9, 4.7 coming in from the south. So it's like a double whammy. We're coming in from the north, and we're coming in from the south. Another way to look at it, we're coming in from up here, and we're coming in from down here, and we're focusing in over here. So the combined total of everything over the past 2 days is going to be going over to Turkey again. And since it's broken there, it's going to be stuck there. If it wasn't broken there, guess where it would go? To the west. And then I'd be warning Italy and Greece. Okay? So, we warned Turkey again. Really sucks. I hope I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll get back on. I'll beat myself up. I will not do another forecast for Turkey or anywhere in the Europe until I figure out where I got it wrong. So if I get it wrong, I'm public about it. I don't run away and hide. I try to figure out where I get it wrong. And technically, I punish myself by not doing any more videos or forecast or anything for a while until I figure out what happened. Name me any other forecaster who stops doing what they're doing to figure out what they got wrong before they move on. Don't you wish the Hurricane Center would... Don't you wish the meteorologist on TV would do that? Guys, I got it wrong. When did they ever come back? You ever seen that on TV? Well, guys, looks like I totally flopped it. Man, I hate myself. You know what? I'm not going to run any ads today. I talked to the station manager. We're not going to run any ads today. I got my forecast wrong. You ever hear that? I'm taking it one step further than they would, I guess. But hey, we're online. This is 2023. It's the future. Now, let me remind everybody, you need to have an earthquake plan. We got lucky on this one being out in the middle of nowhere of Tajikistan. 150 miles away, I bet they felt some pretty intense shaking, but it probably knocked things off shelves, probably swayed lights and so forth. But that's in a national park. We usually look about 50 to 100 miles for significant damage on a 7. And this is near 7. Again, it rang the 7 bell. And there we go. So, luckily, there are no big cities around there. But that's lucky. I hate having to rely on luck. So we're not relying on luck. We look down between our current sets of earthquakes. And in Turkey, let me specify one more time where we watch. We watch between our current sets of earthquakes. Now, there's so many on the map here, I just find the middle point between all of them. So between the 3, 3, 4, down there, like bookends on one end down here at Cyprus, and all the way over here at the plate boundary on the other. And so the halfway point between the two brings us, we don't just go along the line of the quakes. We have to remember the wave's coming in from over here, so it's going to come into here. It's going to go right into here. So that puts us at the Syria-Turkey border region, about 90 to 100 miles east of where the big one previously broke. Does it matter on an earthquake this size in Turkey? I would warn everybody from Gaziantep. Actually, I would warn everybody from central Turkey all the way over to the border with Iran. And we might as well just tell everybody in Istanbul, because they're the ones who are going to be contacting everybody out in rural areas who have relatives and so forth. It's like I'm going to be heard out in the middle of nowhere of Turkey, right? Like, we need to get this message to the people who live in urban areas who can understand my broken frickin' English. I'm from Missouri, United States. I have trouble on a good day. So we have to really just tell everybody in Turkey a new 7 is incoming, and it's coming in the next several days, most likely this week, accompanied by a noticeable increase in earthquakes. We'll see it go back up. It's like the beat of a drum. You will see this go from just the snare drum, just the beat of a slow beat of a drum. Then we're going to be beating the snare drum very fast, like a rolling snare drum of a professional drummer. So the number of earthquakes goes up. We call that frequency increase. So when there's a frequency increase, that's just the number of beats per minute, if you will. Frequency increase is getting ready to happen. Magnitude increase is getting ready to happen. That's like turning up the volume. So we're going to increase the beats per minute. We're turning up the volume. We're getting ready to rock and roll. And not in a good way. We're talking about 7.0 level activity again. And this time I'm going to be pretty serious about this. I'm going to issue the big warning for that. I don't normally issue big warnings. I just tell people to be prepared. But I want the people there to know this is going to be coming in the next few days. Can't stress it enough. If I'm wrong, I will get back on. I will delete the video. I will apologize. I will do whatever. I won't even run an ad on the damn thing, if YouTube will let that. They might still put an ad. Did you know that? If we choose no ads, they still throw an ad on it and make a buck on it. Anyway. All right. Anyway, you guys be safe. Now, let me end this broadcast by telling you, develop an emergency kit. I don't sell any of that stuff, but you should have most of it already in your house. Put it into a bag. And what do you need? Change of clothes, set of shoes. Flashlight is preferable. I know you have your phone, but you want to use your phone for communication during a disaster. So, flashlight, batteries, probably first aid, and sanitation. You're going to want to clean up in case you get dirty in an earthquake. Food and water is secondary, but it's going to be something you need within a day. So I would at least have the water taken care of. The water is heavy, so you might want one of the straws or the pumps or the purification, blah, blah, blah. I've got a little hand pump that mountain climbers use. It will pump brackish water, dirty water. It won't get out radiation, but that's about it. It gets pretty much everything else out. Heavy metals, it gets that stuff out. Just doesn't get out uranium, all right? Doesn't get out radiological. But I figure if we've got radiation, we're screwed anyways. There's no point even drinking water. I'll be drinking coffee. So, you can have a plan. You can take the steps to prepare. Oh, in your emergency kit also, you should have an extra ID in case you have to travel or go somewhere. You should also have medication in case you require medication. Have extra in there. I would recommend that. Think of the people in your household who may not be prepared, whether you have children, elderly, loved ones who are neighbors. You may even want a little extra so you can share if you see somebody in dire situation, so you're not completely out and you still have enough to share. It might be as much of it as an extra backpack full. Like I've got an extra backpack full just in case I run into somebody who A, wants to rob me and take me completely. I can be generous up front and be like, oh, bro, here, take whatever you need. I want to be able to be generous during a disaster as opposed to trying to fend people off. But this is the final piece of advice that I have for everybody, which is you may also need, depending on your urban situation or rural situation, you may need self-defense. I don't know if you're going to be Bruce Lee and learn Kung Fu. I don't know if you're going to be Neo and dodge bullets. I don't know if you're going to be Rambo and try and fight them. I don't have any kind of advice for that. I can tell you my wife is like Katniss Evergreen. Wait, Catnip Evergreen? Is that her name? From the Hunger Games? Catnip Evergreen, right? You see what I just did there? Katniss Evergreen? Okay, anyway. My wife's better with a bow and arrow. I got her a crossbow for Christmas. It's reloadable. It's an automatic firing crossbow, reloadable. It's not for people, guys. It's for hunting in case it all hits the fan. Although if we ever get thrown into Zone 8 or whatever, I'll be at least along with her. I'll be the Petra guy. Yeah. Katniss Evergreen and Petra. I got the names right, didn't I? Hey, I had to end on a light note. So, have a plan, be prepared. Get yourself a kit together. The kit will come in handy. I promise you, the kit will come in handy at some point in your life. Whether it's for emergency, for a weather situation, severe weather, or a fire, or an evacuation, or a flood, or you might just lose your car keys and you've got an extra set in the emergency kit. Those little things can come in handy down the road. So do it. Will you please do it? You'll be way better off than everybody else who's around you who didn't do it because they just didn't want to take the time to do it. It's so weird how people are like that. All right, I'm not lecturing you. You can tell I've been doing this for, 11 years, 12 years almost. I'm probably not as prepared as I'd like to be. So I preach a good preach, but I probably need to update my emergency kit. My batteries are probably dead. All right, anyway, enough whining. It's 7:30 p.m. Central Time. Let's get out of here one more time. Turkey. Keep an eye on Turkey. Keep an eye on South Europe. We can go ahead and warn the people in Albania now, and we can warn the people in Romania now, and we can warn the people at Croatia going into North Italy, Central Italy again, that 3 sets of earthquakes are likely going to be coming after Turkey or around the same time. And it will likely be along the same lines as what just hit last week, within a half magnitude, I'd say. So we're talking about significant earthquake activity again in Romania. And where in Romania? I'm watching eastern Romania right at the S-shaped bend of the plate boundary, about 100 miles east of the previous break from last week. The spot in Croatia, we're leaving the exact same spot, off the coast of Croatia, off the coast of Italy. The third spot, back down at Albania. Last time I warned Albania, it struck on the other side over at Greece. So we're going to watch from Greece into Albania right there along the coast. 3 sets of 5.9s or up to 5.9. And that should happen by the end of this week as well. So we're going to have a busy next 7 days. Or wait, I mean today, by the end of this week. By 7 days from now. So by the 1st, March 1st. And we all know, longtime viewers know, once we get into March, hold on to your hats, batten down the hatches once we get into March. Why? Because that's the true earthquake season, 1 of 3. We have 4 seasons. Humans have 4 seasons, right? It's based upon the temperature and maybe the tilt of the earth, but certainly it's the temperature. Autumn is arguably not really a season. Spring certainly is a season, temperature-wise and plant-wise and animal-wise. And summer and winter certainly are. Autumn is a construct of humans. It's a transition between summer and winter. Anyway, there's really 3 seasons, not 4. And it turns out that Mother Nature has 3 seasons of earthquakes. One almost comes down to the day in March of the spring equinox. And you'll remember the Japan megaquake, for instance. One example, okay? We have many examples of this, so it's not even up for debate. The USGS went and did a study, or professionals went and studied, and they said there's no relation between the seasons and earthquakes. You know why they said this? You know how they came to that conclusion? They looked for 4 seasons. They set out ahead of time with a predetermined amount of seasons to look for. So they didn't find what they were looking for. It turns out it's spring equinox, the middle of summer, starting in July, going through into the end of July. So pretty much the month of July. And then winter solstice, right down to the day, Christmas Day. Or right down to it, almost like 25th, 26th, 27th. So spring equinox, winter solstice, and the middle of summer. Not summer solstice. After summer solstice. Right at the peak of the middle of the summer. Why? I think it has to do with the tilt of the earth, guys. 1/3 one way, 1/3 the other, and 1/3 right in the middle. That's why I think. But they missed it all. They said there's no relation. And I'm here to tell you, March, December, and July is when we tend to see a lot of big earthquake activity. Now that's also timed with the sun. So there may be something to 3 times a year with the sun that nobody's looked into yet. Not me, not anybody. I just don't have the time. Maybe suspicious observers could look into it. I'm serious now. Somebody might want to let them know. Hey, you know, Earth is having these 3 times a year where there is an increase. Like, again, Japan, and we know of all the Christmas earthquakes. You guys know about that. Boxing Day and Christmas. It's happened many times, 8.0 plus. But that's timed after solar flare activity. So it might be that a few weeks before, the sun does something, and then the Earth responds. And we're doing it 3 times a year as the Earth is tilting. But why is the Earth tilting? Maybe because of something the sun's doing that we haven't figured out yet. Just an idea. I'm just throwing it out. I might be wrong. But I love talking about this kind of stuff and theorizing on it for sure. Or well, it's not even a theory. It's guessing. Not even a hypothesis. That's for all the eggheads to do. We're here online, aren't we? We're all friends, aren't we? If not, you need to come over and click like on my friendship button. I don't have it yet, but they need to make one. All right, guys. Be safe. Much love. I will save this as a video, and we'll go watch it back on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, by the way, guys, just listen up. I have this live stream running 24/7, free to watch on Twitch. Now, to get into the chat room and chat it up on Twitch, you have to be a paying subscriber, but anybody can watch the Earthquakes 24/7, spin by on the globe. You can watch on your phone, Twitch app or whatever, or on a computer or a tablet, whatever. Anyway, it's free to watch. I would encourage you to come over at least once a day, and you can just skip the ad if you need to. But, I mean, I do get paid by an ad. But you can skip the ad and just come in and check the quakes. You need to watch as it's spreading, and you will start to see the spread yourself. You won't need me to get on here to tell you. But I do like to get on and tell you, but you'll be able to see it happen real time as the earthquakes ding off over the course of the next hours and days. So I would encourage you to be prepared. It's like watching the weather. So some people watch the radar all the time. Well, in this case, you're watching the earthquake radar. The Quakedar. And on that note, I'm dorking out. It's time for me to go. Peace out.